Big Magic: Creative Living Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert. Picture this. You're sitting across from one of the most celebrated novelists of our time, a woman whose work has moved millions. You're both writers, newly minted friends, and to break the ice, you decide to share the story of your greatest creative heartbreak, the novel that got away. You lean in and start painting the picture. It was about this quiet, middle-aged woman from Minnesota, you say. A spinster who'd spent her whole life secretly in love with her married boss. He gets tangled up in this risky business deal deep in the Amazon jungle. When everything goes sideways and people start disappearing, she's the unlikely hero sent down to that chaotic, dangerous world to fix the mess. And underneath it all, it was really a love story. As the last words leave your lips, you glance up and watch the color drain from your friend's face. She's staring at you like she's just seen a ghost. After what feels like an eternity of silence, she finally speaks, and what she says sends chills down your spine. You have got to be kidding me. Because the novel she's currently writing, the one she's 100 pages deep into, is about a spinster from Minnesota, secretly in love with her married boss, who gets sent to the Amazon jungle to clean up a disastrous business deal. And yes, it's also a love story. This isn't just a wild coincidence. This is something stranger, something magical. It's a story about how ideas might actually be alive, how they hunt for the right person to bring them into the world, and what happens when we're not ready to catch them. Welcome to the world of Big Magic. The author behind this mysterious tale is Elizabeth Gilbert. You probably know her from Eat, Pray, Love, that phenomenon of a memoir that sold over 12 million copies and inspired countless people to completely reimagine their lives. But Big Magic is a different beast entirely. This isn't a memoir, it's a manifesto. It's a guidebook for living a life driven more by curiosity than by fear. Here's the thing. This book isn't just for people who consider themselves artists. It's for the accountant, who's always wanted to learn watercolor. The lawyer who dreams of writing screenplays on weekends. The stay-at-home parent who wants to start that garden they've been thinking about for years. It's for anyone who has ever felt that little spark of a strange idea, that quiet whisper calling them to create something, only to hear another voice immediately shut it down with, "Who do you think you are?" By the time we're done here today, you'll have a pretty good answer to that question. You'll learn how to make peace with your fear without letting it run the show. You'll discover the secret forces of inspiration that are swirling around you right now, at this very moment. And you'll be given the one thing you might think you need before you can start your own creative journey. Permission. Let's start with the big one, the thing that stops all of us dead in our tracks, the great enemy of an interesting, vibrant life. Fear. You know this feeling intimately, don't you? You're afraid you have no talent. You're afraid of rejection, or worse, being completely ignored. You're afraid someone else has already done what you want to do, and they've done it better. You're afraid your dreams sound ridiculous when you say them out loud. You're afraid you're too old to start, or too young to be taken seriously. You're afraid you don't have the right credentials, the right equipment, the right amount of time. You're afraid your best work is behind you, or that you never had any best work to begin with. The list goes on forever, doesn't it? It's like a graveyard, where our brightest ideas go to die. Elizabeth Gilbert knows this feeling inside and out. She says she was born scared. As a kid, she was so terrified of the world that her father nicknamed her Pitiful Pearl. She was afraid of the dark, strangers, the deep end of pools, but also bizarrely specific things like snow, the telephone, and even Sesame Street. If she'd had her way, she would have spent her entire childhood indoors, safely nestled on her mother's lap, with a cool washcloth on her forehead. But her mother had other plans. She was a no-nonsense woman from a family of tough Scandinavian farmers, and her philosophy was beautifully simple. Whatever scares you most, that's exactly what you need to do. Afraid of the ocean? Get in. Terrified of the telephone? Congratulations, you're now the family receptionist. For years, Gilbert fought against this. She made excellent arguments for why she should be allowed to stay scared. But then, as a teenager, something shifted. She had a revelation that changed everything. Her fear was boring. Think about that for a second. Your fear has no variety whatsoever, no creativity, no texture. It's a song with one note, playing on an endless, mind-numbing loop. Fear always makes the same predictable, boring decision. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure book, where every single path leads to the same ending. Nothing happens. And here's the kicker. Your fear isn't even original. It's the exact same fear everyone else has. It's the same panic a tadpole feels when a shadow passes overhead. It's mass-produced, generic, available at any big-box store. Your creativity, your dreams, your unique personality, those are original. But your fear? It's literally the most mundane thing about you. Is that really what you want to build your identity around? The panic reflex of your most primitive inner tadpole. This realization leads to the first major insight of Big Magic. The goal isn't to become fearless. The only truly fearless people are sociopaths and toddlers, and neither makes for a particularly good role model. The real goal is to learn how to live alongside your fear. This brings us to one of the most transformative metaphors in the entire book, the road trip. Imagine your life as a long road trip. You're behind the wheel, driving. In the passenger seat next to you sits your creativity, your navigator, your muse, the one who makes the journey worthwhile. But there's another passenger in the back seat, your fear. And here's the truth. It's always going to be there. Fear and creativity, Gilbert says, are like conjoined twins. They were born together. They share vital organs. If you try to destroy your fear, you might accidentally kill your creativity in the process. So you don't fight it. You don't try to kick it out of the car. Instead, you set boundaries. Before you embark on any interesting new adventure, you turn around in your seat and give your fear a little speech. It goes something like this. Dear fear, creativity and I are about to hit the road. I understand you'll be joining us, because you always do. I get that you think you have an important job, inducing complete panic whenever I'm about to try something new. And honestly, you're fantastic at it. So by all means, keep doing your thing. But I'll also be doing mine, which is to stay focused and work hard. And creativity will be doing its job, making things interesting. There's plenty of room in this vehicle for all of us. But here's the deal. I'm the only one driving. You don't get to touch the maps. You don't get to suggest detours. You don't get to mess with the temperature or the radio. You can have a seat, and you can have a voice, but you absolutely do not get a vote. This simple act changes everything. It's not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about acknowledging its presence while stripping it of its power to make your decisions. You respect its evolutionary purpose to keep you safe from actual danger, but you don't let it run your creative life. Because once you learn to travel comfortably with your fear, you can finally go somewhere interesting, and that's when the real magic begins. This brings us back to that strange story from the beginning, the one about two novelists and one idea. Gilbert holds a view of creativity that's ancient, mystical, and unapologetically magical. She believes ideas aren't just things that pop into our heads. She believes they're alive, disembodied, energetic life forms with their own consciousness and will. Their only purpose, their only desire, is to be made real. Ideas, she says, spend eternity swirling around us like invisible spirits, searching for a willing human partner. Picture it. Ideas for inventions, businesses, scientific theories, symphonies, novels, all of them floating out there, knocking on the doors of our consciousness, hoping desperately that someone will let them in. Most of the time, we're completely oblivious. We're too distracted, too busy, too consumed by our anxieties and daily dramas. An idea might wave at you for a few moments, maybe even a few months, but if it realizes you're not paying attention, it will eventually move on to someone more receptive. But sometimes, when you're open and relaxed, an idea finds its way in. It sends you a signal, a shiver up your spine, goosebumps, the hairs on your neck standing up, that feeling like you're falling in love. This is inspiration. The idea starts courting you. It arranges little coincidences and synchronicities to keep your attention. Suddenly, everything you see reminds you of it. It won't leave you alone until it has your full, undivided attention, and then, in a quiet moment, it pops the question, "Do you want to work with me?" At this point, you have two choices. You can say no, maybe you're too busy, or you recognize it's not the right idea for you. That's fine. The idea will politely excuse itself and find someone else. But if you say yes, you've just entered into a contract with inspiration, and you'd better honor it. This is exactly what happened to Gilbert. Her partner Felipe told her a story about a failed attempt to build a highway through the Brazilian Amazon in the 1960s. The jungle was so powerful, he said, that during the rainy season it literally swallowed bulldozers whole. The moment she heard that image, the jungle devouring machines, she felt that unmistakable shiver. An idea had arrived. It wanted her to write a novel called Evelyn of the Amazon. She said yes. She cleared her schedule, started studying Portuguese, dove into months of research. But then, real life crashed the party. Felipe, an Australian citizen, was detained at the U.S. border and denied entry. The only way he could return was through marriage. Gilbert, who had been through a traumatic divorce and had sworn off marriage forever, found herself in an unexpected crisis. She had to shelve her novel to deal with this immigration nightmare, a journey that would eventually become her book, Committed. For over 2 years, the notes for Evelyn of the Amazon sat in a box, waiting. When she finally opened that box again, she found nothing but an empty shell. The living heart of the story had vanished. The idea, she realized, had gotten tired of waiting. It had left her. She had broken the contract. Enter Anne Patchett. A few years later, Gilbert meets Patchett at a literary event. They click instantly and decide to become friends, exchanging long, old-fashioned letters. In one of those letters, Patchett casually mentions she's working on a new novel set in the Amazon jungle. And you know where this is going. When Gilbert describes her abandoned novel, Patchett's face goes white. Because she's writing the exact same story. The Minnesota spinster, the married boss, the Amazon jungle, the love story threading through it all. The idea hadn't died. It had simply found a more available partner. That abandoned idea became Anne Patchett's magnificent, best-selling novel, State of Wonder. Now, Gilbert could have responded with bitterness. She could have felt robbed, cheated, like proof that she was a failure. But instead, she chose to see it as a glittering piece of evidence that her wildest beliefs about creativity were actually true. Ideas are alive. They move from soul to soul. And they will always seek the most willing collaborator. This story reveals a crucial choice we all face in our creative lives. The choice between being a martyr or a trickster. The martyr believes creativity must involve suffering. The martyr is the tormented artist who thinks you have to open a vein and bleed onto the page. The martyr says life is pain. The martyr is dark, serious, rigid. This is the path of people like Norman Mailer, who claimed every book killed him a little, or Philip Roth, who spoke of the medieval torments of writing. The trickster, on the other hand, sees creativity as a game. The trickster is light, playful, endlessly adaptable. The trickster says, life is interesting. The trickster doesn't fight the universe. The trickster trusts it. He knows that if he cheerfully tosses a ball into the cosmos, eventually that ball will come back. It might come back sideways, or years later, or not in the form he expected, but it will return. The trickster understands the cosmic truth the martyr never grasps. It's all just a game. Think of it this way. The martyr is like Sir Thomas More, ending up dead in a heap of broken glory. The trickster is Bugs Bunny, who always bounces off to enjoy another day. Gilbert argues that creativity has been held hostage by the martyrs for way too long. It's time to give it back to the tricksters. This means approaching our work with lightness, playfulness, and trust. It means not taking ourselves quite so seriously. The musician Tom Waits experienced this shift after years of angsty, tormented artistry. He watched his children create, making up songs and then tossing them away like paper airplanes, never worrying that the flow of ideas would dry up. He realized that all he really did as a songwriter was make intracranial jewelry, decorations for the inside of other people's minds. What a cool, low-stakes job. That realization freed him completely. This brings us to the question of permission. Who gets to be creative? Who's allowed to make things? Gilbert's answer is crystal clear. You are. You don't need a permission slip from some cosmic principal's office to live a creative life. She didn't grow up in a family of artists. Her dad was an engineer and a Christmas tree farmer. Her mom was a nurse, but they were makers. Her dad decided one day he wanted to raise goats, so he brought some home in the back seat of the family's Ford Pinto. Her mom could build, sew, knit, or grow anything the family needed. They never asked anyone for permission. They just did things. They taught her, by example, that you're allowed to be here, and simply by being here you're allowed to have a voice and a vision. This is your birthright. Look back through your own family tree. You'll find makers, decorators, storytellers, builders, gardeners. We all come from a long line of people who created things, not because they were artists, but because it's a natural human impulse. In fact, the earliest evidence of human art is 40,000 years old. The earliest evidence of agriculture? Only 10,000 years old. This means our ancestors were making art for 30,000 years, before they even figured out how to reliably feed themselves. Creativity isn't some rare gift bestowed on a chosen few. It's the hallmark of our entire species. If you're alive, you're creative. So the question isn't whether you have creativity, it's whether you'll have the courage to act on it. And this requires what the poet David Whyte calls the arrogance of belonging, not arrogance in the negative sense, but a fierce sense of entitlement. It's the simple, profound belief that you have a right to be here, and therefore a right to express yourself. It's the only weapon you have against that nasty inner voice asking, "Who the hell do you think you are?" You have to stand up and declare your intent. Say it out loud. I'm a writer. I'm a painter. I'm an inventor. You need to announce it to the universe, and more importantly, to yourself. This isn't a one-time thing. It's something you have to do every single day. And when you do start creating, don't worry about being original. The older Gilbert gets, the less impressed she is by originality, and the more moved she is by authenticity. Most things have already been done, but they haven't been done by you. Just say what you want to say, with your whole heart. If it's authentic, it will feel original. And please, don't make it too important. You're not required to save the world with your creativity. In fact, please, don't try. When someone tells Gilbert they want to write a book to help people, she thinks, "Oh God, please don't try to help me." We can feel the weight of that heavy intention crushing the life out of the work. Instead, create to entertain yourself, to save yourself, to answer your own questions. Do whatever brings you to life. The rest will take care of itself. This leads us to the practical side of creative life. How do you actually persist through the struggle, the rejection, the inevitable frustration? First, understand this. Frustration isn't an interruption of your process. Frustration is the process. Writer Mark Manson asks a brilliant question. What's your favorite flavor of crap sandwich? Every pursuit, no matter how glamorous it looks from the outside, comes with its own lousy side effects. If you want to be a professional artist, you have to be willing to see your work rejected hundreds, maybe thousands of times. That's your particular crap sandwich. If you love the work enough, you won't mind eating it. Gilbert loved writing so much, she was willing to eat that sandwich daily. For years, she worked day jobs, waitressing, bartending, ranch hand work, to support her writing habit. She never wanted to burden her creativity with the pressure of paying the bills. She knew that financial demands can murder inspiration. She was her own patron. It wasn't until her fourth book, which happened to be Eat, Pray, Love, that she finally quit her other jobs. She also learned to let go of perfectionism. Perfectionism, she says, is just fear in fancy shoes. It's the high-end, designer version of, "I'm not good enough." It stops people from finishing their work, and worse, it stops them from ever beginning. Her mother's mantra was beautifully simple. Done is better than good. This is the philosophy of what Gilbert calls the disciplined half-ass. Mere completion is a rare and honorable achievement. Most people never finish anything. If you can just get your work to a state of done, you're already miles ahead of the pack. This is the mindset that allows you to show up at a formal masquerade ball dressed as a lobster. This is a true story Gilbert tells about a young painter in France who gets invited to a party at a castle. He spends all week crafting an elaborate lobster costume. When he arrives, he realizes with horror that the theme was a medieval court. Everyone is dressed in elegant gowns and armor, and he's standing there in a red leotard with giant foam claws. After a moment of pure mortification, he makes a choice. He walks onto the dance floor, bows deeply, and announces with confidence, "I am the court lobster." The crowd doesn't mock him. They erupt in delighted laughter. He becomes the life of the party and ends up dancing with the Queen of Belgium. That's how you have to present your work. You made it. It's the best you could do with what you had. You can't apologize for it. You just walk proudly into that ballroom. You have to trust in what you've created. But what if you don't feel that burning fire of passion? What if you have no idea what you want to create? This is where Gilbert offers some of her gentlest and most powerful advice. Forget passion. Follow curiosity instead. Passion can feel like this distant tower of flame, accessible only to a lucky few. But curiosity is quieter, gentler, more democratic. It doesn't demand that you quit your job and move to Nepal. It only ever asks one simple question. Is there anything you're interested in, even a tiny bit? Follow that little clue. Think of it as a scavenger hunt. It might lead nowhere, or it might lead you to the most amazing, unexpected places. This is how Gilbert wrote her epic novel, The Signature of All Things. It didn't start with a lightning bolt of inspiration. It started with mild curiosity about her new garden. That curiosity led her to learn about the history of the plants in her yard. That led her to the wild world of 19th-century botanical exploration. That led her on a 3-year journey around the world, following clue after clue until she was finally consumed by a passion she never could have predicted. It all started with a quiet yes to a tiny spark of interest. Finally, we arrive at the central paradox of creative life. You have to hold two completely opposing ideas in your head at the same time. The first is, my creative work is the most important thing in the world. You must approach it with total seriousness and devotion. The second is, my creative work doesn't matter at all. This is the ultimate trickster wisdom. It matters, and it doesn't matter. You pour your entire soul into a single sentence, and then you have to be willing to delete it without a second thought. This paradox is what keeps you sane. It allows you to care deeply while also letting go lightly. This lightness is beautifully captured in a final story from Bali. When tourism first arrived on the island, Western visitors were horrified to see the Balinese performing their sacred temple dances for money at beach resorts. They called it sacrilege. To appease these concerned tourists, the Balinese priests and dance masters decided to invent new, divinity-free dances specifically for visitors, essentially meaningless gibberish dances. But something unexpected happened. Over the years, the young dancers, freed from the weight of sacred tradition, began to innovate wildly. They transformed these throwaway performances into something magnificent, something transcendent. The new dances became so beautiful that the priests eventually brought them into the temples, incorporating them into holy ceremonies. The meaningless dances became sacred, while the old sacred dances, which had grown stale, were set aside. The line between sacred and profane, serious and playful, had completely dissolved. And this is the essence of big magic. Creativity is sacred, and it's not sacred. It's a crushing burden, and it's a wonderful privilege. We're terrified, and we're brave. All of these contradictions are true at once. Only when we're at our most playful can something divine finally get serious with us. Make space for all of this to be true, and you can make anything. The treasures hidden inside you are just waiting for you to say yes. What Elizabeth Gilbert offers in Big Magic isn't just a collection of inspiring stories. It's a complete reframing of our relationship with creativity, and by extension, with life itself. In a world that demands perfection, rewards only measurable success, and romanticizes suffering, her message feels like a radical act of liberation. The most powerful lesson here is the idea of separating our creative work from the crushing weight of expectation. The notion that we can create just for the joy of it, just to see what happens, is profoundly freeing. We live in a culture obsessed with outcomes. Will it sell? Will it get likes? Will it be successful? Gilbert gently redirects us to different questions. Will it be interesting? Will it bring you to life? Her distinction between the martyr and the trickster is genuinely transformative. So many of us have internalized the myth of the tormented artist, the belief that to be truly deep and authentic, we must suffer for our work. This toxic myth has cost us countless creators who burned out, gave up, or destroyed themselves, chasing a false ideal. The trickster offers another path, one of lightness, play, and resilience. The trickster doesn't deny the difficulty of creative work, but refuses to be consumed by its pain. Instead, the trickster finds clever ways around obstacles, always trusting that the universe operates from abundance, not scarcity. This book matters more than ever because we're drowning in comparison and self-doubt. Social media shows us an endless stream of other people's polished successes, making it easier than ever to believe we're not good enough. Gilbert's advice to forget originality and embrace authenticity, to choose done over perfect, is the perfect antidote. It gives us permission to be human, to be messy, to be works in progress, and to share our creations anyway. So how can you bring a little big magic into your life today? Here are 3 simple actions. First, have that conversation with your fear. You don't need to write out the full road trip speech, but take a moment to recognize that anxiety when you think about starting something new. Say to it, I see you, I hear you, but you don't get to decide. This small act of separation can be incredibly empowering. Second, go on a 15-minute curiosity scavenger hunt. Set a timer, and for just 15 minutes, follow the faintest whisper of interest you can find. It could be a word you don't know, a type of plant you've never noticed, a song you overhear. Look it up. Click the next link. See where it takes you. Don't judge the path. Just follow the clues. And third, claim your creative entitlement. Find a quiet moment and say it out loud. I am a writer, or I am a painter, or I am a creator. It might feel awkward at first, but speaking your intention into the world is powerful. It's an announcement to yourself that you're ready to begin. That was a summary of Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert. We've journeyed through its core ideas today, but here's the truth. A summary is just a map. The real treasure is in the journey itself. The magic of this book happens in those quiet reading moments, when a story or a simple phrase connects with something deep inside you in ways you never expected. This summary helps you decide if this journey is worth taking. If anything we've talked about today has sparked something in you, I encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely change how you see yourself and the beautiful, strange, creative life waiting for you. A link to the book is in the description below. If you found this summary valuable and want to keep exploring the ideas that shape the world's most successful and interesting people, please hit that like button and subscribe. That way, you won't miss our next journey into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and growing together.